A Texas hair salon owner who defied coronavirus restrictions will spend 7 days in jail. Shelley Luther kept her salon in Dallas open despite orders to close all non-essential businesses. Luther declined an opportunity to apologize and get a fine instead of jail. Instead, she told the judge, "Feeding my kids is not selfish." Shelley Luther was booked in the Dallas County Jail on Tuesday afternoon following a video hearing during which she was found in contempt of court. The hearing came as Texas Governor Greg Abbott relaxed restrictions allowing barbershops and hair salons to reopen on Friday. The World Health Organization is warning of new lockdowns if transitions are not managed carefully. Director General Dr. Tedros Toss listed a series of steps needed before countries lift measures designed to control the spread of COVID-19, the respiratory disease. They need surveillance control systems and healthcare preparedness. Dr. Tedros also stressed the need for investment in healthcare systems. They need to invest now to save lives later.
The risk of returning to lockdown remains very real if countries do not manage the transition extremely carefully and in a phased approach. Crisis can exacerbate existing inequalities, which is demonstrated in higher rates of hospitalization and death among certain populations in many countries. We must address this now and in the long term by prioritizing diagnosis and care for those who are most at risk. This is not only the right thing to do, it is the smart thing to do. We cannot end the pandemic until we address the inequalities that are fueling it.
More than 3.71 million people have been infected by the novel coronavirus globally, and 261,000 people have died.
At least 90,000 healthcare workers worldwide are believed to have been infected with COVID-19, and that is a low estimate. Some estimate the true number to be twice that volume. The International Council of Nurses says the disease has killed more than 260 nurses and infected an estimated 90,000 healthcare workers. The 90,000 estimate is based on information collected on 30 nations from national nursing associations, government figures, and from media reports. The ICN represents some 130 national associations and more than 20 million registered nurses. But the WHO says that some countries are not providing comprehensive figures on health worker infections. Today is National Nurses Day, which gets underway or kicks off Nurses Week, which will end May the 12th. And as we have been reporting for weeks now, the coronavirus is disproportionately affecting communities of color, but it is also affecting physicians in many of those communities.
In some communities like Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 81% of the deaths were among Black people. Joining us tonight is the president of the National Medical Association, Dr. Oliver Brooks. Welcome to the show. Let's just give Dr. Brooks a moment. There he is. Welcome to the program, Dr. Brooks. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
And please, doctor, tell us about the burden that's being placed on physicians of color. We don't often hear about that. And why are our physicians more at risk?
So we are not necessarily more at risk of getting COVID-19. We are there on the front lines as physicians. So we join all the physicians and the healthcare workers at being at risk. I will say this, I've had reports as president of the NMA of at least 2 physicians who were sanctioned for complaining that they did not have adequate PPE. And there was a concern that they might have been sanctioned more so than someone of the majority community, put it that way. So that is a major issue. I will say that somewhat of an underreported issue is that half of African Americans get their care from solo and small group practitioners. And right now, what is happening with solo and small group practitioners is that they are seeing a significant decrease in volume. People are sheltering in place, safer at home. So they're not going in, and they are therefore not having patients come in. So it's been a big challenge. A lot of them are not getting the PPP monies, and so they may in fact go bankrupt, and that is a very big concern. The other thing is that, as you've heard, African Americans tend to have pre-existing conditions, and those providers are worried that once this is all over, then they will be inundated with people who have not been seeking care. And what happens if you're not getting care for your diabetes, for your hypertension, for your asthma? You're worse. So when they come in after not having seen them for, let's say, 4 or 5 months, then they're going to have patients that need care, are in worse conditions, and their practices have been challenged. So we have some real challenges in the African American physician community.
So I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. Are you telling people to go ahead and go see those doctors for, other issues, that they should continue to be seeing their doctors?
So that is an excellent question, and we've been debating that. So just like there's a phased reopening of the environment, I refuse to use the term economy because we need to not think in dollars, but in the lives that we lead. So the best thing to do right now is telehealth as best you can. And that's where there's another concern with the African American community. A lot of the solo and small group practices were not prepared for telehealth. At my health center, Watts Healthcare Corporation here in South Los Angeles, we were more or less able to ramp up from, let's say, a minimum of 5% up to maybe 80% in as little as 2 weeks. A lot of the solo and small group practitioners cannot ramp up like that. They don't have the infrastructure in place. They don't have the training. So that is a challenge. What I would say is this: as we get a better handle on COVID-19, better understanding of the risk, at that point, it will be good for patients to start going in and seeing their doctor. Right now, I would say call your doctor. Your doctor is available. They may have the ability to do telehealth, and that phone interaction or that audio video interaction is very helpful.
And doctor, let me ask you about this. We've seen story after story of doctors and nurses who are putting themselves up in hotels at the end of their shifts in order to socially separate themselves from their family and to protect them. What's being done to keep those doctors and nurses safe after the shift?
So, I'm really glad you brought that up, because again, we share that burden again with other physicians. So this is where it's a brotherhood or a fraternity, sorority. So first of all, you protect yourself as best you can. I call it generalized anxiety disorder. Our primary concern seems to be, I guess that's a physician's mindset, is bringing it home to our families. So the best you can do is have that PPE, which is one of the concerns that I stated, and then use it properly, and then take all the proper precautions. So if you have to, think about it, if you have to go to a hotel instead of be with your family, what mindset is that? Then you're stressed because you're working hard, you're worried. In my lifetime, I don't ever remember working in an environment where I worried about the fact that what I may be contracting on a daily basis is something that could theoretically hospitalize or kill me and my family. So that is a whole new environment in which we work. So what is being done for those that are in the hotels? They need to have good communication with their family to keep a good mindset, because your mental status helps your physical status. If you're stressed, your immune system is actually reduced.
And really quickly, as we wrap up here, Dr. Brooks, just want to get your opinion. Different parts of the country, some are reopening, some are staying closed. Do you think it's too soon? What are your thoughts on reopening the country?
Again, a very good question. So there's evidence that there may be a second virus circulating. We only have 3 broad methods by which we can, what a friend of mine called, train or tame this virus. Public health methods, which is the shelter in place, wash your hands. There are treatments, which goes anywhere from ventilators to oxygen to medications, and then a vaccine, which we don't have yet. So back to what you said, public health, I think we need to go slow. We need to do it by data and by the information that we have in terms of the community spread, how much is actually out there in the environment. The bottom line is, if I have to say as a physician, I think that a lot of places they're going a little bit too fast. I'd say better get it right than get it fast.
All right, Dr. Oliver Brooks in Los Angeles, president of the National Medical Association. We thank you so much for your time and for your expertise. You're welcome here anytime.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Well, coming up next, in a city that never sleeps, New York subway halts its overnight service. A look at the future of its public transit system.
Plus, what happens when man's best friend gets left behind during a pandemic? Who is helping with the happy reunions?
Closed captioning brought to you by UMS Diabetic. Stop the painful pricking with a CGM, covered by Medicare.
Attention Medicare customers with diabetes. Now you can stop the painful pricking of your fingers with the continuous glucose monitor. Call right now for free information.
Just between us, you know what's better than mopping? Anything. At the end of a long day, it's the last thing I want to do. Ugh. Well, I switched to Swiffer WetJet, and it's awesome. It's an all-in-one, so it's ready to go when I am.
The cleaning solution actually breaks down dirt and grime, and the pad absorbs it deep inside, so it prevents streaks and haze better than my old mop.
Plus, it's safe to use on all my floors, even wood. Glad I got that off my chest. And the day off my floor.
Try WetJet with a money-back guarantee.
Moving can be one of the most stressful things you'll ever do. And at Moving APT, we specialize in taking the stress and strain out of your move. Whether you have a 1-bedroom apartment or a 10-bedroom mansion, you can feel safe and confident that Moving APT will get the job done, on time, hassle-free, and at the guaranteed lowest price. That's right, we will meet or beat any quote. That's our price match guarantee. At Moving APT, we never sacrifice quality or service. Licensed, bonded, and insured, you always get the best price. So if you're planning an out-of-state move within the next 30 to 60 days and you need a full-service moving company, you owe it to yourself to give us a call. We do it all, packing all your belongings, moving and unpacking. So if you're relocating, leave the stress and strain behind and call Moving APT, America's #1 interstate movers, now. Call 1-800-705-6839. 1-800-705-6839.
This National Poetry Month, the Black News Channel honors Amiri Baraka. Brought to you by the Black News Channel. Truth illuminated.
Welcome back to BNC World Headquarters. Well, New York City's subway system took the unprecedented step of halting overnight service to clean train cars, a likely prelude to bigger changes as the largest U.S. mass transit system works to rebound from a pandemic that has slashed ridership. BNC's Ashley Liotis is in Manhattan and has the latest.
Could this be a glimpse into the future? Many New Yorkers are asking that about the subway system that shut down overnight for the first time in its 115-year history to be cleaned and disinfected.
Starting tonight, we will take advantage of the closure from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. to start the largest and most extensive cleaning operation, disinfecting operation actually, in the history of the subways. We will be disinfecting subway cars, every one of them, buses and stations, and we'll be doing that on a daily basis.
All stations and cars were shut down from 1 to 5 a.m. No card swipes, no riders, no need to stand clear of the closing doors, please. For a system that, before coronavirus hit, served 9 million people every day, a quick fix doesn't usually work. But Wednesday morning, train cars were cleaner and riders were scarce. Now, MTA officials are looking into more options for the future.
We're also looking at different ways of doing this cleaning and disinfecting. We're trying out antimicrobial treatments to keep surfaces virus-free longer. We are looking at ultraviolet light technology that can immediately eradicate viruses. We're looking at electrostatic sprayers and using foggers to improve the productivity and increase the speed with which we're working so that we can minimize the disruption to customers. We're trying out all of these different techniques, and we'll be deploying them over the course of this initiative.
Still, riders wonder how long this will go on. When the city reopens, will subways be cleaned every 24 hours? Will they run between 1 and 5 a.m.? All questions that remain to be answered, as does the other big question hanging over the city of New York.
It's not a question of do we reopen, it's a question of how we reopen. That's really the question that we have to grapple with and that we're dealing with in New York. Our position in New York is the answer to the question, how do we reopen, is by following facts and data as opposed to emotion and politics.
Recently, ridership on subways decreased more than 90%, which helped to limit riders who needed transportation during those overnight hours. Riders can still take buses, where MTA officials have suspended collecting fares to help protect its drivers. Reporting in New York City for the Black News Channel, I'm Ashley Leotis.
And a new report out tonight, the great majority of people newly hospitalized with the coronavirus in New York City are either retired or unemployed and were avoiding public transit, according to the new state survey, the first such look at people still getting seriously ill despite 6 weeks of severe social distancing. Retirees accounted for 37% of the people hospitalized. Another 46% were unemployed.
Today in Wuhan, China, classes resumed for high school students in their final year. CCTV footage showed a class 1 high school conducting a drill to simulate an evacuation after a student was found with a fever. Schools are required to enforce strict social distancing conduct and also to perform temperature checks and limit class sizes to 25 students per class. Another rule, no one is allowed to enter or leave the school grounds between 7 in the morning and 8 in the evening. Kids have been out of school for 3 months, with college entrance exams coming up in July. We'll take a break here, but up next, what happens when man's best friend gets left behind during a pandemic? We'll tell you who's helping out with these happy reunions.
Best Fiends. That's friends without the R. Collect tons of cute characters, solve thousands of fiendishly fun puzzles, and play with your friends and family too. Find out why this 5-star rated app has been downloaded over 100 million times. Best Fiends is bigger, better, and more fun than ever. Download Best Fiends for free today. That's friends without the R. Best Fiends.
We started Carpe because we wanted to help sweaty people just like us.
We wanted to create an antiperspirant that could tackle the toughest sweat.
I sweated right through my tuxedo at my wedding.
The second I would put on a shirt with sleeves, it would sweat right through.
That classic midday sweat.
Nothing has worked for me until I found Carpe.
Carpe is up to 3 times stronger than a regular strength antiperspirant.
I need this in my life.
We're confident you'll love it just as much as we do.
Stop your sweat today at mycarpe.com.
Zantac Justice sponsors this paid advertisement for legal services. Attention, have you or a loved one been diagnosed with cancer after using Zantac or other heartburn medications for several months? You may be entitled to compensation. Call Zantac Justice now for a free legal case review. The FDA has warned that Zantac and other medications containing heartburn drug ranitidine may be contaminated with cancer-causing agent NDMA. If you or a loved one have been diagnosed with cancer like bladder, kidney, colon, or rectal or stomach cancer after using Zantac or other heartburn medications regularly, call Zantac Justice right now for a free consultation. Our network of attorneys have years of experience and are ready to fight for you. You may be owed significant compensation. Consult your physician prior to discontinuing any use of medication.
Please call 800-926-8316. That is 800-926-8316.
Well, this is a time of lockdowns, stay-at-home orders, social distancing, and is bringing out the best in people and the worst.
Officers in riot gear showing up in predominantly black communities to enforce social distancing rules.
Yeah, we've seen a flood of videos showing officers making violent arrests while trying to enforce the rules. But is that all necessary? Joining us tonight to discuss is the president of the NAACP, Derek Johnson. And we'll start you off with this, sir. Why are we seeing such a disproportionate enforcement of these rules in black communities, such as we saw in New York the other day?
But it's consistent with what has been taking place for a while now. Unfortunately, for some communities, law enforcement see the need to protect and serve. In other communities, they see a need for aggressive policing. And unfortunately, aggressive policing end up with many African Americans being wrongfully harmed by law enforcement in ways in which we should not anticipate.
Are you encouraging people to videotape these incidents? We know that making them go viral has brought more attention to the issue.
I think the videotaping of policing has created a level of accountability. We have always known in the African American community, particularly those who grew up in inner cities, that you have some law enforcement officers who were friendly, who came from the community that you communicate with, but you had other law enforcement officers who resorted into violence unnecessarily, particularly when they dealt with young kids and teenagers.
And even when, Mr. Johnson, when violence is not involved, there's that feeling that black people get if you walk into a store and you're masked, if you're walking down the street, you get that look, you just get that tension. That's palpable. How do we handle that? How do we address that?
You know, it's one of those questions that one of our founders said early on, W.B. Du Bois, race will be the question of the 21st century. We find in 2020, race is still the question. It's a social construct that many African Americans and Latinos are confronted with every day. And at some point, this nation was going to have to address the question of race so that all citizens can feel comfortable with being accepted and able to participate on all levels.
What exactly is the NAACP doing to try to deal with this issue?
Well, you know, we are an organization that's 111 years old. We've always fought for equal